Chris Godinez, licensed professional counselor, also the host of We Need to Talk on every Sunday at noon. This video is for educational and informational purposes only. Views and opinions stated herein are mine and mine alone. They do not represent the ACA, the APA, or any other therapist for that matter. Boom, shakalaka done. I'd like to thank my sponsor, BetterHelp, BetterHelp, BetterHelp.com/Chris Godinez. They're an online therapy company. They are international, and I have gotten great feedback from people using them. So thank you, betterhelp.com/Chris Godinez. Okay, guys, I just want to warn you all that there may be a lot of trolls on today, or there may not, but I'm expecting them because I got hit by trolls this week, and we are going to be talking about First Amendment rights, which I think are important. We are also going to be talking about how to deal with trolls. I'm going to show you, and I'm going to model for you how to deal with them. And we are also going to be talking about abuse amnesia, how abusers minimize and make you question whether the abuse was really as bad as it was. Here's a clue. Yes, it was. Okay, so the first little part of our show today. Oh, also, if there are trolls, do not engage. Please do not engage with them. I want you to practice gray rocking. Don't defend me. Don't do whatever you think you need to do. Don't. Nope. Don't. John is going to take down their handles. He's going to screenshot who they are, and we'll turn it over to the proper authorities. So there that is. All right, now, the Bill of Rights. The First Amendment, which is currently being trampled by trolls, by our government. Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof. So that's the first part of it. So why is that important? And why is that language in there? Because our founding fathers were deists, not Christians. They were deists. Read the biographies of Thomas Paine, Jefferson, oh, I forgot the sound, Ben Franklin, George Washington. Read their biographies and you will understand why that language is in there and why that is so important. Freedom of religion, any religion, and that no national religion shall be established. That's intentional. And you need to understand why. Read their biographies to understand. There that is. The second part of the First Amendment. You have freedom of speech, freedom of ideas, freedom of the press, the right of the people to peaceably assemble and to petition the government for a redress of grievances without governmental interference. Freedom of speech, freedom of religion, freedom of the press is the cornerstone of democracy, the cornerstone. The countries that do not guarantee freedom of press, freedom of religion, freedom of speech tend to be dictatorships and oligarchies. It is hugely important to know what your rights are so that when somebody, a person, a group of people like trolls, or a government come to take it away, you can stand in your certainty and say, no, and I mean it. This is my right. You have the right to have freedom of speech. So what does that have to do with abuse survivors? How often have our abusers told us to shut up, to not talk about what they've done or what they're doing? How many of us have been shut down in counseling sessions with an abuser, which I don't recommend doing? Don't ever go to a counseling session with an abuser, or going to court with an abuser. You can't talk about that. Yeah, you can. Yeah, you effing can. Freedom of speech. It's important. Know your rights. Seriously, not just with an abuser, but with anyone who would take your rights away from you. Gaslighting. Yes, they gaslight like crazy. You betcha. Because they try to make you think you don't know your rights or that you don't know what you know. So we're going to talk more about that. So what I encourage all of you to do, all of you, read the Bill of Rights. It is the first 10 amendments to our Constitution. Read the Constitution so that you understand why our armed forces, Army, Navy, Air Force, Marine, took an oath to protect the ideals of the Constitution, to protect the Constitution. Not a president, not a man. They are loyal to the Constitution. And it is their oath to protect that. And I will remind everyone who is in the armed forces of that. You took an oath to protect the Constitution. And let me tell you something else. Our founding fathers would shun the people who are trampling all over the First Amendment. They would shun them. They would not like them. So don't wrap yourself up in a frickin' American flag and tell me what a patriot you are when you are trampling all over a lot of our rights. How dare you? How arrogant. You think you know better than the founding fathers? I don't think so. So this week I got hit by a bunch of trolls. And it was after the protests on Saturday. Do I think that's a coinkydink? No, I don't. I don't believe in coincidence. So basically, one of the things, and I'm going to model for you now how to deal with trolls. And before we dive into that, really quickly, I just wanted to say that a lot of people have contacted me saying, I want to go protest. I want to call my senator. I'm afraid. And then I go, okay, well, how old are you feeling when you're afraid? Well, it's my inner child. I'm afraid I'm going to be punished because that's what the abuser did. So here's the deal, guys. You got to work on your inner child and you cannot be afraid. You must stand up for your rights and you must stand up when you see other people's rights being trampled. Because if you call, will the government show up on your doorstep? They might. Yeah, they might. And I'll tell you what to do if they do. You keep your door locked, you keep your camera on, you start broadcasting live, you demand to see a badge, and you demand their full name, first and last, and a badge number. And then while you're doing that, somebody else in the household call the attorney or the news, whatever. But the likelihood of that happening is not real great right now. But let me tell you something. If you studied history, if you saw how dictatorships go, Nero, Nazi Germany, 1938, 1939, if you've studied that, you'll know that if you say nothing and do not stand up for your rights or anybody else's rights, eventually they'll show up at your door. So you've got to work on your inner child. And let me just give a quick little thing to illustrate this. A few years ago, I worked with a client that had to turn in an institution where children were being abused. Terrified, did not want to call, did not want to, get involved, was terrified. They're going to punish me. I'm going to get punished. How old are you? Really young. It reminds me of my dad. Okay, well, your dad's dead. Can't hurt you. This person is in the wrong. You are in the moral right and the legal right. I'm a reporter, so let's do this together. So we made the phone call together and filed a report. The person at the other end at the DCS said, okay, well, this needs to go to the AG. So then we got all the information together and gave it to the AG. The person called the AG, talked to them. A week or so later, I got a phone call from my client going, oh my God, I'm a changed person. And I was like, okay, what do you mean? Tell me more. And they were like, I feel so empowered. It's crazy. It's like I'm not afraid of anything anymore because you got the inner child handled. You proved to the inner child that you were safe, that you could take care of yourself, and you could protect somebody else who was being abused. And that really is our calling. When we have been abused, it is our job to make sure nobody else is ever abused. So this week I got hit by trolls. And now I'm showing you how to deal with them. So one of the phrases flung at me was stay in your own lane. Oof. Stay in your own lane. Damn. The only people I have ever heard say that were abusive. Red flag. Like a communist parade right there. Stay in your own lane is a variation of shut up. I'm going to shut you down. How dare you see the pink elephant taking a crap in the corner of the living room? I don't want you talking about the pink elephant in the corner of the living room. And it's gaslighting. It's the implication is well, actually the second half of stay in your own lane was you're a therapist. You can't talk about politics. Watch me. So the implication being stay in your own lane is to hurt, to harm, to shame, and to imply somehow that the person who is talking about the subject that the abuser does not want you to talk about is somehow not able to talk about it because their job is something different. So by that logic, I would have to be a politician in order to talk about politics. I think John and I are going to run for our local council. Thank you for the suggestion. A dentist who happens to be really good at gardening couldn't have a show on YouTube talking about dentistry and gardening. A mechanic who happens to have a knowledge of dinosaurs can't teach kids about dinosaurs on YouTube because they're a mechanic. The lack of logic is breathtaking, truly. So I responded simply saying, because I knew what I was dealing with at that point, and I simply said, I am going to talk about politics on my show, which should have been a clue right there to them, on my show, if it's harming my people that I am helping, if it's hurting my veterans, my people with disabilities, my severely mentally ill, my elderly, and if it's hurting kids, you damn straight I'm going to talk about it. By the way, measles is up to over 700, and I think 715 cases now in 6 different states. Please, please, please go get your vaccinations. So yes, I am going to talk about this. Thank you for showing me who you are by your comment. That should have been the end of it. So the next thing that happened was an hour later, someone said, well, politics are not important. Politics are not important. You can't talk about them. Politics are not important. Let's analyze that. Are you actually listening to what you're typing? Because if politics were not important, you would not be so determined to shut me up. Clearly, they must be, or you wouldn't bother. Politics affect everybody, every one of us, every day, whether we know it or not. Policies that happen affect either us directly or indirectly. A good government is quiet, peaceful. It runs in the background. You're not even really aware of it because you're more concerned with what you're doing in your everyday life. Taxes come in, Social Security goes out, Medicare goes out, Medicaid goes out, whatever. I get those two mixed up, but you know what I'm saying. Veterans are able to get into the Veterans Administration to get their medical needs taken care of, their psychological needs taken care of. Yes, people fall through the cracks, but a healthy government is consistent. It's not back and forth. It's not policy change. Okay, no, wait, different policy change. No, we're going to do this. No, we're going to do that. No, we're going to uproar, upset in the news every damn day, multiple times a day, actually seeking out to be in the news to supply narcissistic supply. That is an unhealthy government. Good government is quiet. It's peaceful. An unhealthy government is nothing but chaos and division and anger and fear-mongering, trying to intimidate people, trying to make sure that their rights are being trampled on. That's a bad government. That's a bad government. They cause fear in my elderly because my elderly are like, wait a minute, I'm going to have to get on X now to get my Social Security. I don't even know how to use X. That's one of the things being floated. So my elderly are scared, and I don't blame them, because some of them don't have family to take care of them, and they rely on that Social Security check to get cared for in their care facility. Mentally ill, needing meds to function on a daily basis, what do you think is going to happen to them? They're going to become homeless. Then what's going to happen? Society is going to start breaking down. And don't even get me started on my veterans. Veterans are dying by the truckload every damn day from suicide alone. A friend of mine who fought in the Vietnam War got diagnosed with cancer back in March. The emergency room told him to go to the VA and get an MRI. Do you want to know when they can get him in? End of July. How is that taking care of our veterans who fought to protect our constitutional rights? Don't wrap yourself up in a flag and tell me what a patriot you are when you're like, well, it doesn't affect me. It doesn't affect me. Yeah, because you have no freaking conscience. You have no freaking empathy for anyone. I don't want anyone to be harmed or hurt or denied due process or kept in a jail in a foreign country without due process or sent there, oops, on accident. None of that is legal, and none of that would be okay with our founding fathers. And if you think it is, you clearly have not read history. So I did not respond to politics are not important because at that point, I realized I was having a battle of the wits with an unarmed person. So I let it go. Then I got hit with, you're a therapist. Therapists are supposed to be quiet and listen and not have any opinions. Are you listening to what you're typing? This is a talk show, mother clucker. I talk, you guys listen. I answer questions. You give me questions, I answer questions. That's what a talk show is. When I have my therapist hat on in a signed contractual agreement with a client, yeah, I sit, I listen. They ask questions, I answer questions, I ask questions. We come together to work on whatever it is they are working on and help them come to the conclusions that they already kind of knew, but were kind of afraid to say out loud. That's usually what happens. So that's what I do in a therapy session. No, I don't have opinions there. Politics does not come into it unless it's a focus of therapy, unless it's causing them distress. And then it comes up and then we work on it. But I let them talk and I listen and I guide. And that's what I do. And yes, I do work with people who voted for Trump, and I love them as much as I love all my clients. And I serve them as well as I serve all my clients because they're human beings first and foremost. And second of all, they are my fellow Americans. And I am not going to treat them any less. And that is what these other people who wrap themselves in the flag and think that they are better than everybody else, they treat other people like dirt. And that's not okay. And I will never treat my fellow Americans like that, ever, even if I disagree with their politics. So let me be clear. When I'm here in this arena as a public figure, as a talk show host, you goddamn straight, I'm going to express my opinions. And I will talk about whatever the fuck I feel is necessary to keep my people safe. I will fight like hell for my veterans. I will fight like hell for my children. I will fight like hell for the disabled. I will fight like hell for people being sent to God knows where because our First Amendment rights are being trampled on. So don't you ever come at me, fangs bared, and tell me what I can and cannot dictate to me. Dictatorship. Dictate to me what I can and cannot talk about on my own show that I have been doing since 2013. And let me remind you of something else. I do a disclaimer every damn video. This video is for educational and informational purposes only. The views and opinions stated herein are mine and mine alone. They do not represent the ACA, the APA, or any other therapist for that matter. And that disclaimer has been approved of by the State Board and the ACA Code of Ethics. So go blow it out your ear. You want to threaten me? Oh, baby. The last person that did that got an injunction against them. So I will give you an opportunity to back out. If you're being a jerk, you have the opportunity to stop. And if you don't, I will block you. I will ban you. And if I need to, I'll get an injunction. I have no problem doing that. I encourage all of you to work on your inner children. I encourage you to call your senators, call your representatives. Work through that fear. You're going to feel so much better when you do it. You're going to feel empowered. You are. So that, in a nutshell, is how you deal with trolls. You do not negotiate with terrorists. And you never get into a battle of the wits with an unarmed person. And you also do not put up with shenanigans and fuckery. Period. Okay. That's that. Now, let's talk about abuse amnesia. This is huge. Abuse amnesia is when the abused person forgets how bad the abuse was. So when we're in an abusive relationship, what the abuser is doing to us may have been normalized by our family of origin. And that's why it's so ridiculously dangerous. Because if abuse has been normalized, thank you, sweetie, I appreciate that. If abuse has been normalized, we don't recognize necessarily the red flags. I hear it all the time from survivors of abuse, clients and you guys and people that IM me and things like that. They get mad at themselves for not seeing the red flags. Well, if it's been normalized for you, it's not necessarily going to be a glaring red flag. Basically, let me explain. When we've been raised by abusers, we come up with maladaptive ways. Grab the bottle, meant to grab my cup. We've been raised with maladaptive coping strategies, and one of those coping strategies, unfortunately, is dissociation. So when we start getting abused, we just kind of boop, check out and leave, like we're here, but we're not there kind of thing. And so when a red flag comes up to us, that's our go-to, is to dissociate. That's totally normal. So please stop beating yourself up. That is a sign that you've been abused, and it's a trauma response. And it's a part of healing, really, when you're starting to recognize, oh, geez, I didn't see that red flag. How could I have not seen that red flag? Okay. So really, that's a part of healing, is when you recognize that you have been checking out or you have been dissociating. With the other things that we do when we're in an abusive family is we minimize. We do, because we have to survive, because we have an abuser or two or more that tell us that we can't talk about the dysfunction, that we cannot talk about the elephant in the corner of the living room taking a crap. So we learn to adapt, which means ignore, dissociate, minimize, excuse. We do a lot of excusing. We rationalize the whole thing because it's scary. It's scary to our inner children. So abuse amnesia is generally a learned behavior from a family of origin that was abusive. Hold, please, while I take some water. Whoo, jump back. All right. So this is on Good Therapy, and this is called, let me get the title, Abuse Amnesia, Why We Stay with Our Abusive Partners. An exacerbating condition occurs if the person experiencing abuse grows up in an abusive household, what I was just talking about. In this case, the person may have been conditioned to adapt to an abusive environment by utilizing minimizing, denial, rationalization, pretending, fantasizing, spacing out, dissociating, drug and abuse. All of these things cause us to not recognize immediately when abuse is happening. And that's totally normal in a really weird, abnormal situation. So please do not beat yourself up. What I do see, hold on a second. Okay, what does abuse amnesia look like in practice? It occurs when the person has been abused physically, verbally, sexually, or emotionally. And in a matter of minutes, hours, or days, it's as if the occurrence of abuse never happened. So what happens is a child has to adapt somehow if they've got an abusive parent, because we love them. We love the abusive parent because they're our parent until we, get out of the house and can go, damn, that was screwed up. And we're afraid of them. And that's terrifying for a child. That is terrifying. So we have to come up with rationalizing, minimizing, etc., in order to survive that abusive environment. When we get out of that abusive environment, and let's say that we go on and we get together with another abuser, okay, and we eventually go, oh, darn, no, that's not good, and we leave, eventually what will end up happening is we start suffering from abuse amnesia. We start thinking about the good times. We start walking down the primrose path of, oh, I remember when they did this. And it's usually about the love bombing. It's usually about the times that they were, quote unquote, normal or good or kind. And so we start focusing in on that instead of focusing in on why we left them. So it's really, really, really important, first and foremost, if you feel like you're doing abuse amnesia, like you're walking down the primrose path only thinking about the good stuff when you've left an abuser, okay, I want you to get with a good trauma therapist. Number one, first and foremost, I want you to write out every single rotten thing that an abuser has ever done to you. Ever. You write it out and then you put it somewhere where you can see it. That's really important because that kind of snaps us back into the present moment, which is, oh, whoa, damn, they did this, 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 this. Whoa, why the heck did I want to call them? What was I thinking? Holy cow. Well, you were thinking probably with your inner child. So get the inner child workbook. Start working the inner child workbook. I cannot push that enough. The inner child, if they're allowed to run the show, is going to cause you to go back to the abuser because the inner child is desperately trying to fix the family of origin. The inner child is the one that looks outside of ourselves and goes, oh, look, somebody who kind of sort of reminds me, and this is all subconscious, kind of sort of reminds me of the parent that I had the hardest time with. Oh, I know. If I can make that person love me, I prove mom and dad wrong. Half of a doo-doo sandwich, half of a doo-doo sandwich, total doo-doo sandwich. So the inner child, it's really important to work on that and really important to help the inner child feel safe enough to admit the abuse and to not deny the abuse or minimize the abuse or rationalize the abuse or worse, justify it. What breaks my heart is when I hear clients say something like, I deserved to be treated like that. No, you didn't. No, I don't think so. Wrong. Incorrect response. You deserve to be treated with respect because you're a human being and you're working on yourself and you're doing the best you can with what you got. Your parents lied to you. Do not believe them. Oh, that makes me so angry. I just want to hunt them down. Not the clients, but the abusers. Anyway, the point being is that our inner child is the one that believed they deserved it, not the adult. The adult person is like, what? I didn't deserve that. Where did that come from? But the inner child is the one that believes it. So this is why inner child work is so important. Self-esteem work, recognizing your worth, recognizing it, because the messages we got from the abusive parent and or the abusive romantic partner were anything but supportive and encouraging and helping with self-esteem. It was all pulling out the rug from underneath us, telling us we're worthless, telling us we don't deserve good stuff. That's what abusers do. And that little one inside of you, unfortunately, believed them because they didn't know any better. So you got to teach them, hey, you're worth it. You are a good person. I like you. You deserve to be treated with respect. And you look at yourself in your eyes when you do that. Mirror work. That's what helps with that. Also, abuse amnesia. Hold on. Let me get to Okay. So abuse amnesia occurs with brain chemistry. So in simplified terms, we have oxytocin, dopamine, endorphins, cortisol, adrenaline, all of this stuff. When the abuser goes away, we go through withdrawals. It is literally an addiction, not to the abuse. We are addicted to the abuser because they dumped all of that love bombing onto us and then they would take it away and then they would give it to us and then they take it away. Up and down, up and down, up and down, up and down. And so when an abuser finally does the discard, we literally go through withdrawals. And we are missing the adrenaline, the dopamine, the serotonin, the norepinephrine, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So it's really important to remind yourself why you are no longer with this person because they are not consistent. Again, healthiness equals consistency. Consistency equals healthiness. Consistent, steady, like the Rock of Gibraltar. That's what a healthy, normal person is. There's not this, I love you, I hate you, 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 I love you, I hate you. So work on your self-esteem. Work on your inner child. Abuse amnesia on the part of the abuser is gaslighting. This is when you come to them saying, you did this, you did this, you did this, you did this, and they look you in the eye and say, that never happened. I never said that. Oh yeah, psycho killer, kiss casse. Yeah, they do that. That is gaslighting. So it is abuse amnesia technically, but really it's gaslighting on their part because they don't want to take accountability for who they are and what they're doing. And so they use that to manipulate and also to instill doubt in your mind. I cannot tell you the number of times Abused children, adult abused children, children who've grown up and, were abused when they were kids, come to me and say, I'm questioning everything because my abuser said it never happened. Well, of course they're going to say it never happened. They don't want to take responsibility for it. That's the whole intent of gaslighting, is to take away your certainty. Like, seriously, I've had clients go, I'm not sure if what I told you I went through. Then I'd have to be like, okay, let's go back and do the inner child workbook again, shall we? And we work it through together. And then they're like, holy crap. And I'm like, oh yeah. so yeah, that's the intent of the abuser, is to cause cognitive dissonance, is to cause confusion, is to cause you to question whether you're the problem. You're not the problem. Healthy, normal people do not abuse. Let me be very clear on that one. Healthy, normal people do not abuse. They do not. But unhealthy people do. And they gaslight and they lie and they do whatever they need to avoid responsibility. So why is this so dangerous? Well, if the inner child is allowed to continue down the primrose path, the inner child will convince you to get back together with the abuser. And what happens when somebody who's been abused goes back to an abuser, it never gets better, guys. They don't change. They don't grow. They don't understand their mistakes. They don't take responsibility for their mistakes. What ends up happening is they now know how to abuse you better. And the love bombing will be smaller and smaller and smaller. And the devalue and discard will be larger and larger and larger. And they'll keep pushing the envelope of what they can do to you psychologically, mentally, physically, sexually, emotionally, etc. It's dangerous. If you allow your inner child to walk down that primrose path, it's gonna get you killed, because they don't get better. And in fact, it gives them sadistic delight, especially the dark triads, to push to see how much they can push you, to see how much they can hurt you. They enjoy that. That's why they're dark triads. They're psychopaths, narcissists, control freaks, with a very unhealthy dose of sadism thrown in, just for good measure. So it is dangerous. Denial in general is dangerous. So part of abuse amnesia is denial. The little kid going, no, it's fine. It's, it's minimizing, justification, rationalization, in order to stay safe. The other half, like I said, is dissociation. Sometimes we really don't remember because we checked out. That's a normal response to a traumatic situation. But it's dangerous because if you don't remember what they did to you, you're susceptible to getting back together either with them or with somebody just like them. And you do not want that. Please don't do that. I really don't want that to happen to you. So get with a good trauma therapist. Get with somebody who can understand the trauma responses, that understand dissociation, that understand minimizing, rationalizing, coping, maladaptive coping mechanisms that we used when we were in a family of origin that was abusive. Really important to understand all of that and to also start recognizing the red flags. So what I would love for you guys to do, and I know I've done this 1,000 times. Oh, where is Shahida Arabi's book? Oh, hold, please. Hold, don't go anywhere. I'll be right back. I'm just wheeling over here. Shahida Arabi's books. Breaking Trauma Bonds with Narcissists and Psychopaths. Excellent book. Love Shahida Arabi. Give it a read. Reread it. That's going to help you. You need to be aware of what the red flags are. You need to write them down. You need to put your list of deal breakers where you can see it. What is a deal breaker for you? Deal breakers should be absolutely no disrespect. Do not put up with disrespect at all. What does disrespect look like? It looks like lying, cheating, stealing, gaslighting, rewriting history. All of those are disrespects. Write your list of deal breakers out. And the second anyone crosses it, you can fire a warning shot across the bow. But me personally, I'd be like, peace out. You show me who you are. Thanks for playing. Bye-bye. So write your list of deal breakers. Have a list of what they did to you. Get with a good trauma therapist. Take super good care of yourself. Trust yourself. Trust your gut. Your gut knows. Your inner child may not, because the inner child is looking for approval and acceptance and love that they're never going to get from that abuser. That abuser is a well that is poisoned and salted and dry. Never, going back to a poisoned, salted, and dry well, will you ever get what you need from them. You must give to your inner child what you need that you did not get. That's why it's called reparenting yourself. So you do mirror work. You look in the mirror. Hi, good to see you. Have a great day. You know what? You deserve respect. Huh, look at that. You deserve respect. You deserve to be appreciated and loved. It's okay to have fun. Have a great day and then walk out. Something I've seen a lot of survivors is that they have a really hard time allowing themselves to play. I totally encourage you to go play. Go get a coloring book. Go color. Get a kite. Go fly a kite. It's so much fun. I used to love flying kites when I lived near the ocean. I don't now. I live in a desert. What the hell? But go fly a kite. Go rollerblading. Go, I don't know. What else do you go swing on a swing? Go play. That helps you get in touch with your inner child, and it helps the inner child know that they're safe. So I totally encourage you to do that. All right, let's dive into the questions. Hold on. Oh, wait, no. Narcissists do abuse amnesia as a denial of convenience. I just wanted to say that because then they don't get in trouble. So yes, they know the difference between right and wrong. They do. They absolutely do. This is in Psychology Today. Denial in the Narcissistic Mind, Pathological Distortion. I highly recommend you read it. It's by Julie L. Hall. They do it as a form of convenience so that they don't get caught. That's really what it is. They dismiss, they justify, they minimize, they negotiate, and then they flip the script. So that's all denial. But here's the thing. They absolutely 110% know that they're lying. They know it's a lie. And they repeat it over and over and over and over again in order to convince you, not them. So just when somebody has to repeat something that you know is a lie, it's kind of a red flag. Hello. So yeah. So just pay attention to that. Okay. So let's go to the questions. All right. Is abuse amnesia a good thing as long as we leave the situation and learn to be safer? I would have to say no. And the reason for that is you would be wise to allow yourself to remember so that you know exactly what they did and what red flags they were throwing so that you can avoid them in the future. So I know that there's a part of us, and yeah, and I understand. It's like, but I don't want to remember. Boy, howdy, I'm right there with you, kiddo. It's not fun. It's not. But once you understand that this was not your fault and you are not to blame, and studying what happened to you will keep you safe, holy cats, the world is your oyster at that point, because now you have the knowledge and the power to recognize the red flags and recognize the warning behaviors, because they always tell you exactly what they're going to do before they do it, because they're arrogant and they're stupid. So you want to, yes, you want to remember. You do. It's terribly hard in that it's painful. But here's the thing. It's just a memory. It cannot hurt you now. It's sad. It's terrible that it happened. Absolutely. But I think it's a really good idea to study what they did so that you recognize it if anyone else ever tries to pull that crap with you again. 100%. So get with a good trauma therapist. EMDR is really good. So here's the deal. CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy, is we talk about it. We talk about the abuse, right? And then we work it through and we do a lot of that. A lot of people don't like CBT, and that's cool because, you know, if it doesn't work for them or they don't like it, well, then we need to find a modality that will work. So 2 modalities that kind of bypass the amygdala would be EMDR, so that you can talk about the therapy without being re-triggered talk about the trauma without being re-triggered by the trauma, or EFT, which is the tapping that helps you bypass the amygdala so that, again, you can talk about the trauma without being re-triggered by the trauma. So some people can do CBT, some people prefer EMDR, some people prefer EFT. Either way, I don't care. Just get help. Just get somebody to help you cope with that traumatic event so that you can cognitively recognize what they said, what they did, what the red flags were, so that you can see them coming a mile away and y'all just step aside and let them fly right on by. So yeah, that's the answer to that. What can we do to get justice and protect other people from sexual abusers? Wait, from sexual abusers and abusers when there's no no proof and the justice system is not on our side. Well, what you do is you let as many people know as possible what abuse is occurring, and you contact as many local, state, and federal government officials as you possibly can. I know it feels like they're not on our side. I know it does, but squeaky wheels get oiled. And the more people who make a fuss, the more likely something is going to be done about it, which the reversals recently are interesting and breathtaking because people stood up and protested, because people called their congressman, because people were saying this isn't okay. Now all of a sudden they're saying that it's okay for all the farm workers to come back, mainly because everybody stood up and said, who's going to pick all the fruit? Common sense, not so common. You get a hold of as many people, you get the ear of as many people as possible. You get the ear of a news station. They have humans' interest stories all the time. So yeah, that's what you do. You are never powerless. It feels like we're powerless, absolutely, but you're not. So you keep talking, you keep educating. I think that's the big thing. Education is power. So once you start educating people and you get the word out and you let them know what's going on, then they can also go educate, contact authorities, contact, whatever they need to contact. Do you see where I'm going with that? It's like a drop in the water. You start educating, people know their rights, people know what to do, then they go out and they do what you're doing, and then the people they've reached go out and do what they're doing. Do you see where I'm? Yeah, that's what you do. You never shut up. You never shut up and you never shut down, and you absolutely stand in your certainty. And you contact as many authorities as you possibly can. And will they like it? Probably not. Like I said, right now, I contact Kelly and Ruben Gallego on a daily basis, probably about 4 or 5 times a day, with the different topics that come up every damn day. So I call them more than I call my own family. My sister, in fact, was like, you talk to the government more than you talk to me. I'm like, yeah, I know. I'm sorry. So, so that's what you do. You never shut up. You teach, you educate, you give people the power to do something on their own, and you do what you're doing and they're doing what they're doing, and then they teach other people. Yeah, that's what you do. Absolutely. Okay. How long does abuse amnesia last? After the breakup with my narcissistic ex-girlfriend, the amnesia, while less frequent, is still there. Yes. Okay. So it's because our brains are trying to figure out why this person who was so important to us is no longer there. So, like I said, we go into withdrawal. We absolutely do. The oxytocin, the cortisol, the endorphins, serotonin, the whole thing. We go into withdrawal. And it does get less and less and less. So here's the deal. Good news, bad news. So in a healthy relationship with a healthy breakup, it's just a couple that just, hey, we don't have the same goals. I really love you as a friend, but we're just going to have to break up. That does happen. Believe it or not, it does. There's no abuse amnesia because there's no abuse. And the missing the person may last for a year, more or less, but then it fades. Much like grief with an abuser. Okay. So in a healthy loss of a person that was wonderful to us, yeah, the first year sucks. You betcha, because we miss them and we miss all the times that they could have been here. But then the second year is much better. In a healthy relationship, in a complicated relationship with an abuser, grief and breakups and feeling that.
Hang on. Well, let's start a new stream and finish it up then.